Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love. You love it, I love it. Are we going to see it this fall? Welcome in to our live stream. I see that there are tons of people in here. We've already got comments to address, so it's great to see everybody in the live chat. We want to see football, and the players and the coaches apparently really want to play football, really want to coach football. See all those letters out there? Kevin Warren's got some reading to do, and he's got some splaining to do, as it appears, as well. Again, we appreciate you stopping by to talk college football with us. We aim to do this each and every Sunday night with our call-in show. We also have a number of other content varieties released each and every day here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. There's not a day that goes by that we don't release college football content, and typically day after day after day after day and multiple times per day. We actually try not to release too much college football content here. Our number, as I will get to the live chat here very soon, is 860-325-3687, 860-325-3687. I will get to the live chat and get to your comments right there. Just in recent days, boy, we are in the midst of releasing all sorts of content, preparing some ACC, SEC, Big 12 fans for the college football season, and continuing to try to determine a legitimate reason why the Big 10 and the Pac-12 aren't playing college football. And the more I think about it, the more I weigh the options and the points and the counterpoints in my mind, the more determined I am that college football is the best option for these student athletes right now to be on the field. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark Rogers. It's Ballard Sports Media. How you doing tonight?
Ballard, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just, obviously like all of us, waiting for some football and, just reading up on all the news and everything.
Absolutely. What's on your mind tonight?
Nothing really. I mean, I just shared this on my personal Facebook page, and I kind of read it because being an Alabama fan, I try to follow like all the Bama sporting news. Well, I saw something. I don't know if you saw this, but some guy in Oregon. It was the
wasn't George, was it?
The Oregon State president.
Yeah.
Did you see the news where he was like insulting the SEC and saying we care too much about, like the SEC cares way too much about football that they won't cancel because of, the virus or anything?
No, I didn't see that. I think that these individual conferences, what they need to do is to be respectful of the other conferences. And for me, unless I was in a situation in which I saw something morally wrong with a decision and an outcome somewhere else where I thought that I needed to take a stand. Otherwise, you know what, Oregon State president, be concerned about the Pac-12, be concerned about your university, and stay out of it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And listen, obviously Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, he's aware of this virus. He's aware of all of it, And yeah, SEC fans, Bama, Auburn, all the way around. Yeah, we love our football, but I think we can all agree we got a sense of reality. We know what's going on. Everyone else knows what's going on. So, I mean, and like you just said, why is a guy from the Pac-12 from Oregon taking shots at the South? Stay on the West Coast,
I've always considered a lot of those kind of statements, and when you look at it, to be relevant. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I've had this conversation a number of times concerning how much money is too much money. Right. So I have often said, and I understand that there are people with exorbitant amounts of money and income out there, and as long as they were able to earn that money in a fair and legitimate and legal way, then I fully support it. But there are people that criticize and say, well, they have this large amount of money. They have $50 million. $50 million, that's way too much money. Okay. Then who are you to be determining when's that too much money? Okay, is 40 million too much? Okay, I can understand that. But is 30 million too much? Is 10 million too much? Okay, is $500,000 too much? Because we can all, you know, I am a person who, I want to say this in a certain way. I'm certainly aware of and contribute to the needs of others. I'm fully aware that other people do not have it as well as I do. Therefore, I am giving to a number of places. But could I give more? Yeah. Could I live in a lesser house? Yes. Could I afford a lesser car? Yes. You can always make it relevant. Yeah. So I didn't see those comments, but
I just couldn't help but I seriously just couldn't help but get a laugh out of it. I just thought, and like you said, I mean, listen, this is a guy at Oregon State. This is the Pac-12 that we're talking about, taking shots at the Southeastern Conference, and you're on the West Coast. I mean, listen, you can look at it and see the news and read up on it and, you know, have your own, but why are you not focused in on your school and just focus on your school, focus on the conference and everything, and just, you know, I guess leave the SEC alone.
Unless there's something involved that I'm not aware of, that would be my sentiment exactly, Ballard.
Yeah.
I can only agree.
Anyway, I saw the news and wanted to get your thoughts on it. Really appreciate what you do on your channel and everything, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks for the phone call, Ballard. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
Ballard leading us off tonight. Apparently the Oregon State president taking shots at the SEC, saying it means too much. Does football mean too much to us? Probably. Want to get to the comment on the screen there from W.T. Keaton, and we'll do that very soon here. But first, we're going to take our caller, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Mark? It's CFP Jared. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. What's going on tonight?
I'm doing well myself. But before I get into what I was going to talk about, touching on like what the last caller was mentioning, pretty sure that the Oregon State guy was actually like the president for LSU at one point a few years ago. And so that's something that was really interesting to me. But anyway, moving on. So one thing that's like I've always been so confused on, because the Pac-12 and Big Ten, you understand, like, you know, we're doing this for the players' health and safety, you know, and or, you know, we're canceling it, you know, for their own goodness, you know. But then they're going to turn around and just completely justify sending the kids to campus, you know, and just taking their classes. Like, that to me has made no sense. Where if you want to, you know, how is playing football going to be? Playing football is not going to be the thing that, you know, gets them, you know, the virus. It's going to be being on campus like they already would have been, you know. And so canceling the football season, you know, doesn't make sense when you're still going to have those players practicing. You know, they're still practicing and they're on campus with the regular student population. That to me has never made any sense.
Yeah, if you've heard any of the call-in shows that I've taken ever since this has become a hot subject, and specifically when the Pac-12 and Big Ten made its decision, I have shot and posted I don't know how many videos from various angles and taken these call-in shows. So I don't know if you need me to explain my opinion, but it's pretty much on par with yours.
Yeah. And, you know, it's unreal to me, you know, like, when you see like Justin Fields setting up the petition, because they're putting in so much work, and, you know, like you said, you know, I definitely, you know, I know what you think about this, and it's crazy to me. But anyway, that's all I was doing for tonight. One last thing, been watching you for a while, Mark, and thank you for everything you do. You're an amazing YouTuber. But anyway, that's it for me.
I appreciate that so much. Thanks for calling in, and call back sometime.
All right. No worries.
Yeah, and I'll just plainly say that I'm on record about 50 times of stating that I don't pretend to have all the answers. I don't pretend to be an expert, especially when it involves medicine and legalities as well. But I just fully don't understand. It hasn't been explained to me in a way that I could understand why it's safer to play football in the spring than it is right now.
The call will start at speed.
MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Rogers. My name is Ken. I'm calling from Louisiana.
Hey, Ken from Louisiana. Appreciate you calling tonight. How you doing?
Yeah, it's very difficult to catch up with you because you do your programs on, odd times of the night and different things. So I had a set reminder on my phone, so I'm very excited to be on the phone tonight.
Well, Ken, let me ask you this here. What would be a good day and time for you?
Well, at the time that I'm calling you now, because in the next hour I'll be going to bed.
Okay. All righty. Very good. We're going to do our best to commit to Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time. So that's 9 o'clock for you down on the bayou.
Yeah. But I called you for when you're talking about this, if the season will the championship be legitimate? And I got several reasons why it's not legitimate.
Okay.
Number one is you don't have all the Power 5 conferences playing. That's number one.
Yep.
Number two, you got games that have been canceled that had national championship implications, such as LSU, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, UNC Auburn, USC, Alabama. Third reason, players are opting out, and I think the latest one was Brooks out of Oklahoma, running back, I believe. And then you have teams trying to join another conference to play this season. So that's 4 quick reasons why the championship would not be legit.
Ken, I can appreciate the first 3 reasons you gave us. Why would the final one, why would that be? Because if anything, that's going to allow other teams to play. If that does happen, if an Ohio State or Nebraska would latch on to another conference or put together a schedule, that would allow more teams to play and make it more legitimate, wouldn't it?
No, not in my opinion, because you're going from one conference to another, which you would have never been there in the first place, given that it was legit with the 5 powerful conferences. So there's just no way you think, okay, you put Ohio State, Nebraska in the AC or whatever. I mean, it may make that conference, it's going to make the conference stronger, but they're not going to look at them as.
No, it's a great point. So
Simpson.
Yep.
Yeah.
I came up with the title for the show because I've been asked it many times. And when it comes to most debate topics concerning sports or college football, I certainly have a strong opinion. This one, I don't. I tend to say that it is legitimate. And this is my reason would be, okay, we have 3 of the 5 major conferences playing and the other 2 chose not to play. It's not like they were left out. In a sense, this is one small way that I would make it more legitimate, or say it's more legitimate than any other year, is because in the other years, we have at least one conference, if not 2, when the SEC gets 2 teams in, or when Notre Dame gets in, where we have 2 conferences, not just 1, but 2 left out. Well, what was the reason they were left out? Because the college football playoff selection committee left them out, but they actually played football and had champions and had legitimate teams there to be chosen, but they were left out. In this particular season and scenario, the Pac-12 and the Big Ten have chosen not to play. So it was their decision not to play, and the other 3 are playing. Therefore, I see the reason that they could claim our champion is going to be a legitimate champion because you decided not to play.
Well, I don't agree with that because it's a reason why they chose not to play, and that's because of COVID-19. So you have to factor that in there when we're talking about this legitimacy. This is the reason why they're not playing. It's the reason why players are opting out. It's a reason why they're doing this. It's not just sitting out because they're looking at the NFL or anything else. They're doing it because of COVID-19.
So if you were the commissioner or you were in a position to say, I'm the one who can rule whether this is going to be a legit national championship, wouldn't you rather encourage college football to be played this fall? Because otherwise you're basically saying there's not a national champion, so why play? So we don't want you to play.
Exactly. I would not, if I was the commissioner or the head of the NCAA, there would not even be a college football season.
Okay.
Period. That's my point in the whole thing, because there's no way you can convince me that that sports is better than death. When I know that some of these players are going to catch this virus when they play on the football field, if they're allowed in the play, you can't tell me a lot of players ain't going to catch COVID-19.
Hey, Ken, well, I just have this question. Why are they going to catch it on the field?
Because we say that everybody's being tested, but we also said that the schools have been tested and all that, and the place in Georgia and everywhere else, the first day they got there, half of the school was tested positive coronavirus.
Then they're not going to play.
You can't tell me that. Yeah, but they're there, and the players will be there. And then when a guy runs a punt for a 90-yard touchdown run, and he got to run back to the sideline, you tell him he got to throw his mask back on that quick? There's no way he's going to throw a mask back on. It's like telling children not to play at school with this COVID. They're going to play because they're kids.
Ken, everybody's going to be tested that's walking out onto that field. Everybody's going to be tested and test negative that's going to be allowed to participate in any way in the game, not just the players, but the coaches and the staffs, and anybody that's required to put on a football game is going to have to be tested and will test negative. Therefore, they can hit and get close to each other all they want. Football doesn't create the virus to be exchanged.
No, football doesn't, but the person does.
Of course.
And there's been many times where right now you got people that have the virus that have no symptoms. It's just a lot of ramifications to it. I can't get too hard.
Okay, so what are you telling me, Ken, is that you're not trusting the testing?
No.
Okay, all right.
Because I see it every day.
Okay.
I see it
got you.
day. And that's if you, like I said, if I was the commissioner or in head of the NCAA, whatever it was, that would not be a season. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I'm probably in the minority.
Well,
but thank you anyway. Thank you for taking my call.
We appreciate it, Ken. Thank you so much. Ken from Louisiana calling for the first time. It was great to hear from Ken. And so he's got a great point. If, in fact, the testing is inaccurate, unreliable, and we know that it is. We know that certain types of testing, I would hope that the best possible testing, the most accurate testing is being put in play for college football. I am going to, I need to get the live chat to the screen. Come on now. I need to get, there we go, the live chat to the screen. So there's somebody that's on the line right now. Hang on just a second. I'll get to the call. I want to read off this comment by W.T. Keaton. College football has only had about 5 or 6 completely undisputed champs ever. So what's a little controversy? One more year. It's the norm, not the exception. I totally agree. We could go through college football history and I could dispute almost every national champion. Therefore, why not just play out a season, say that this champion is legit because the other 2 conferences could have played had they wanted to, but they chose not to. Therefore, we have a legit champion. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
This is Quentin. I'm calling from Central Florida, close by Orlando.
Good to hear some new callers tonight. Quentin, how you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah, I just want to call to get a few things off my chest. And number one thing I want to get off my chest is, like, when the situations were going on with unarmed, African Americans getting gunned down and stuff. We didn't hear anything from these head coaches and these assistant coaches. We didn't hear anything from them. But when it comes to college football and this and that, it's like some of them want to come out the woodworks. That's number one that I want to get off my chest. Number two, I feel like as far as this conference, that conference, this conference, I feel like it needs to be two major conferences and have an NC and have it tournament style, win or go home, like every other sport. You win or you go home. I feel like all the conferences that are in like the South and the East need to all be in one, like the SEC, ACC, Big 12, Conference USA, the Sun Belt, conferences like that, the Southland, like all the teams that are in like the South and the East all need to be in one conference, major conference, and heck, you can come up with a name like the Southeast, like a mega Southeast conference, and then the West, and have, the West have it like the Big 10, the Pac-12, the Mount West, the American Athletic Conference, because I feel like, and so on and so forth, for us, the teams that are in the North and in the West, and call it the mega Northwest Conference, and that will help the small schools, since they're all in one conference. That will help the small schools get money financial wise. They could get money from the TV contracts and all that. Like, since they're in that conference, just have two major conferences. That's it. Like, as far as Division 1, like have two major conferences, and like, because for my math and everything, what I was doing was like taking like maybe 6-7 conferences, like out of the Patriot League, the Southern Conference, the Big Sky Conference, all that. It's like maybe they make it all even. It's maybe like 62, 64 teams all together, including like the two major conferences, and just battle it out. Like, win or go home. I feel like that will help all parties involved, because I'm telling you now, these kids, they're going to be like, why heck, I'm going to go to college, and they're going to skip and go to the XFL and get paid. Yes, you can make money off your kindness, but that's not going to be enough money. Why the heck would I spend, like go to college and get or whatever, and I could get paid in the XFL, because there were already players in the XFL that was getting NFL contracts, and there was already a player in college, or he got out of college and went to the XFL. I can't remember. It was a wide receiver. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Oh, absolutely. There were players who were able to parlay their XFL careers into NFL careers. But how many are we talking about?
Well,
could we count them on one hand or two hands? That's not going to be enough to encourage people, just because 5 out of 400 players were able to go to the NFL from the XFL.
Well, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be, all it takes is one. It's already been one. It's going to be a domino effect. The NCAA needs to, because it looks like they have no power whatsoever as far as the Power 5 conferences. It's like the 5 conferences have all the power. And the NCAA has been getting over for years. They've been making millions of dollars for years. And now it's time for them to step up and really come up with some freaking solutions, because right now this is anarchy. It's every conference for themselves. It's crazy, and I just feel like my personal opinion, just need to be two major conferences to settle all this. And then and maybe that major conference have their TV deals with whoever, like ESPN, or just like one conference like the Southeast Conference that I made up or whatever. Just they can have their deals with CBS and or whatever, CBS or ABC, and then the other conference have their TV deals with whoever, ESPN or Fox or so it just needs to be two major conferences because the little schools is right now it's big fish eat little fish, and the little schools they're not making any money. They're cut out, as far as generating money, So, but and then they have everybody follows, the protocols, everything, the testing and all that, and also I feel like since college athletes, you need to separate them from the other students on campus as far as dorms, like have the college athletes and all the sports on one side of these colleges as far as their dorm rooms, have them separated from the rest of the athletes as far as living conditions and food-wise also, eating food, like have set certain times or, have, you know what I'm saying? Like, there needs to be like a set schedule for eating times and all that for all athletes, for all student athletes. So that could kind of be some separation too, as far as, regular students and the student athletes. Because we need to say, hey, it needs to be a decision like, okay, a student athlete is different from a regular student. And honestly, they are. But we really need to put it in stone that they're separate from a regular student. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. So there's a lot there, but I'm only going to pick out one item because we could be talking about this for 5 hours. But I just want to clarify.
Am I making sense to you? Am I making sense?
Yes and no. I believe I get your points. The one that I want clarification on is this conference idea. You understand that there's either 10, 12, or 14 teams in these conferences currently. So you're looking at a model where you would take 130 teams, that's how many teams there are in the FBS, and you would split them into 2 conferences. You would only have 2 conferences. Yeah. And so you would have a 64-team conference and another 64-team conference.
Yeah, like a 64-team conference. Yeah. And have 2 major conferences, yep.
Hardly anybody could play each other in their own conference.
Well,
you can only play so many football games
every year. You can just rotate it every year. So instead of like the SEC or everybody else covers doing like every 4 years or 5 years or every 10 years, like Auburn and Florida just recently played, which is in the last time they didn't play was forever. I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Well, it would be about 6 years ago.
That's like ridiculous.
It would be about 6 years ago.
Yeah, like 6 years.
They play about every 6 years. That's how that works because you've got 6 teams rotating if you're the SEC and the other division that you're playing each year. So if you're picking out, let's say, Auburn and Florida, do you know how often Auburn and Florida would play under your system? Well, they're playing, how many conference games would they play? 8 or 9 conference games? Well, if you get 65 teams, they're not playing for a long time.
I don't think they will play a lot in that system.
No, if you're rotating them evenly, they're not playing. And you've completely annihilated every rivalry in the country.
Well, things are changing now. You can't.
You don't like rivalries. You don't like rivalries in college football? There would be no rivalries. They would not exist.
Don't get me wrong. I like rivalries, but sometimes you have to sometimes things outgrow, and sometimes and this CV-19 is changing everything. So. You get what I'm saying? So
I think you're solving a problem that doesn't exist. What's the problem? Players aren't leaving college football to go play in the XFL. And even if players decided to go play in the XFL instead of playing college football, there's only so many roster spots in the XFL. So only so many of them could leave anyway.
Yeah, but that's going to grow the XFL if a lot of players.
Well, they can no. It can only grow so big. Quentin, it can only grow so big. A league can't be 52 teams big. So the XFL is only going to grow so big. I'll actually make a prediction, and I don't know anything about what's going on with the XFL right now. I don't like it. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. But I'm going to make a prediction because it's a pretty sound prediction to make, because it just happens over and over and over and over and over with these football leagues that challenge the NFL, and that's that it's not going to make it. That's my prediction.
We'll see.
Oh, I might be wrong. I'm not saying I'm going to be right for sure.
It wasn't bad. It really wasn't. It was not bad at all. Yeah, the first go around in the XFL, it was horrible. But the second go around, it wasn't bad at all.
Are they still playing? I don't even know if the XFL still exists. Does it?
It just recently got back.
Yeah, they just started
the
again.
Wrestler,
Yeah.
The Rock, him and his investors just bought it for $15 million. But yeah, because Vince McMahon did own it, and he, decided to shelve it, and The Rock and his investors paid for it, bought it, so it's going to start back.
All right, Quentin. Thanks so much for the call.
But I do think some high school players are going to like, Karen, why the heck I go to college and I can go to the XFL and get paid? That's kind of like a juvie. It's like that'd be like what, a juvie league or whatever, to show your talent, and then And
there you go, Quentin.
But NFL combine.
All right, I got to get going, Quentin. We got other calls coming in. I appreciate the call, man.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. Press 1 to start.
I don't even know where to start with all of that, but I just picked out the one idea there for the 65-team conferences. That was a bit much for me. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
It's RC in Miami giving you.
RC, how are you?
I want to check it.
Absolutely.
And share some things with you guys. I noticed today on social media a lot, and actually it started last night, I believe, a lot of SEC players posting pictures and videos, not only on Twitter, but on Snapchat, on every social platform that's out, media platform that's out there. And you see the number of kids not wearing masks, not social distancing. And this is what we talked about last week with regard to the pandemic. And it's just disturbing that the mentality that we know is going to permeate all these campuses is starting already. And when you look at what's to come with the second wave that's going to come eventually, I mean, we can't get out of our own way, Mark. I mean, it's just very disappointing to see this throughout the country.
I would like to know if you polled or interviewed all of these people, what their response would be in regards to, simply why aren't he wearing a mask? What they would respond with, whether they just think it's impossible that they get sick, or they don't care about anybody else, or they just think it's a hoax, or I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't know how to answer your concern there.
Well, regardless of what the mentality is based on this age group, the reality is that more and more kids are getting sick, more and more kids are going to the hospital, more and more kids are perishing.
Do we know that?
Data just keeps showing it every week. And here in Florida, we had 2 kids this week under the age of 18 pass away. Neither one with pre-existing conditions. So, again, it's very disturbing. And one of our kids here from South Florida, who lives at Auburn, who's one of the fastest kids in the country, I believe his name is Anthony Schwartz, he had a bunch of stuff on social media yesterday. I was like, man, there really isn't any sense of urgency when it comes to being responsible. And in particular, most of the institutions and campuses and fraternities that you see this stuff happening, unfortunately, there is a political connection because they're not hate to go there because I'm neither blue or red. I'm an independent. But what you see is leadership from the very top trickling down to social behaviors. And when you're talking about a pandemic, man, it's the facts are there, the comparisons are there, but yet and today to have the NCAA's top doctors come out and say we really shouldn't play. I mean, either put both feet in the circle or not. And if we don't do that, I mean, it's not fair for kids from Ohio State not to be able to play this year, and a kid from Florida can play. I mean, there has to be some type of cohesion and consistency across the social landscape of football. And if you're going to cancel all fall championships for Division I, I mean, do your job. And Mark Emmert's too comfortable because any type of opportunity to make money, that's what it comes down to.
So RC, I'm looking at some statistics that I found on Twitter as soon as you mentioned the death rate, the mortality rate, and also then the ER visits. So anytime any of us roll out statistics, we're not talking about looking up NFL stats that we know are exactly accurate. These obviously are sometimes motivated politically or are just inaccurate, or others are accurate. We don't even know if the testing stats are accurate because I heard some stories today with somebody in my family talking about some of their friends and some of the tests that came back. One person in particular received a positive indication to their test before they even took the test. So anyway, I'm looking at a chart here that is showing that the more we test, and it's got very specific statistics that relate to different regions in the country, that the more we test, the less percentage of ER visits that occur. That we're down to 1.8% of the people have emergency room visits for COVID symptoms, and 98.2% don't. And that number is actually decreasing. The amount of ER visits is decreasing.
Well, I don't know if the data actually validated that there's a correlation there, because basically there's more factors involved. And the factors differ based on population, age, mean, all those other things that you have to look at. But as a whole, when you look at hotspots, when you look at like 2 weeks ago here in South Florida, in the state of Florida, our hospital ICU capacity was minimal at best. We had at least 45 major hospitals in the state of Florida 2 weeks ago not taking anybody in terms of ICU capacity. So those are the alarms that go off for us to understand that we have to go ahead and just curtail our social activity as best as possible. You stay home. Whenever you're out, you wear a mask, socially distance, and we hopefully can have the vaccine sooner than later, especially before that second wave comes. But if Labor Day comes and all these college kids, what do? Come Labor Day weekend, they go travel, they party, they go here, they go there. It's not going to stop. And the spikes will come back, and more people will die. And you're averaging over 1,000 deaths a day.
RC, let's think about this for a second. I'm just going to pose this this scenario and how it's played out thus far. Since the athletes first came to campus around the first week of June, and I'm talking about major college football players and really athletes across the board that are being tested and allowed to come back to campus, we started hearing almost immediately, okay, there's 17 at LSU and there's 25 at Clemson, whatever the numbers were, and we would hear about different outbreaks at different universities. So there are 130 teams that play major college football, if you're looking at the FBS. So that's roughly 105 players per team. So it's roughly 1,300 just football players. That's not even counting all the athletes on campus. So if we stick to football, 1,300 plus football players, and we've heard these various numbers that have come out. I would think, and I might be wrong, but I would think if a player, especially at a Nebraska or USC or LSU or Florida or shoot, anywhere, Bethune-Cookman, got a major illness, we would be hearing about it in the news. If their symptoms were horrible and they were getting.
But here's what you're talking about.
We're not hearing that.
Miniature-sized bubbles. And that's, once campus opens, okay, those bubbles don't exist anymore. Because the general population is what? Doing what we're seeing. We're seeing the evidence of this weekend.
But once you contract the virus, you've contracted the virus. So
I think once they get back to
RC, my point is, and then I'll let you go. My point is that, and I'm not arguing one side or the other. I'm just trying to find truth here, and that's that we have heard about all these positive tests once the athletes hit campus. The various programs were reporting 10 and 15 and 20 players, whether that be just football players or athletes total, were testing positive. But then we were not hearing, and have yet to hear now 2 months later, about any of those players becoming seriously ill. I'm not hearing about it. And
well, we have heard about it. Quite the contrary. We had at least the Big Ten put out 10 kids that were found with the issue with the heart. Now, due to HIPAA, they can't say the names of those kids unless those kids want to share the information. And any kid that wants to play in the NFL is not going to share that right now. Okay, I mean, that's just common sense. But when you look at the freshman coming in at the University of Indiana, he got sick at a off-campus situation where a couple of guys were living, I believe, and working out, and that's how he got sick, at a social gathering. And that kid's still, I believe, in the hospital. So there are cases. Some are documented, some are not. But I think the underlying concern is we still have so much that we don't know, and that's good or bad.
Sure.
But the bodies keep accumulating. The graves keep on being dug. So in the meantime, hey, it's like having a speed limit. You know, I want to go fast. I'm a really good driver. In my mind, I'm a hell of a driver. So I should be able to drive as fast as I want to go. I can get to a four-way stop and no one's there. I can just go because I think it's okay. There are rules set in place to protect ourselves and each other. It's like we're just ignoring the most basic common sense components of living in a society. And again, it starts at the top of leadership, not just nationally, but in every state, in every community. But you know, I just don't see things getting better. And the report I saw today, when the NCAA's top medical advisor is saying, "Hey, until we test more, we shouldn't be playing." I mean, I don't know what else needs to be done except for Mark Emmert to get off his ass and say it's time to go ahead and shut this down and take a loss this year. And hopefully, let's start creating the mini bubbles for basketball. Because if you're all about money, which you are, that is the next major opportunity to make a ton of money. Well, maybe you can clone what the NBA has done, Mark. And I think every conference can find a venue, or maybe 2 or 3 venues per conference, where you can create a mini bubble, where you can create, a curriculum that all the kids are doing everything online, virtually, and you can at least have a product. Because if the NBA can do it, and I'm sure they're going to go ahead and invest as much as possible to help the NCAA out for now, that would be a great PR move, and the NBA is always a step ahead of everybody else. To invest, maybe help pay for the testing. Now you've got an opportunity to have that bubble mentality, that bubble way of life for at least 4 months for these kids. And maybe we can go ahead and have March Madness. Mark, thank you for your time. I really appreciate what you do for all of us. Have a great show, great insight. Take care, my friend. Be well.
Thanks, RC. I appreciate it. Take care. All right, we're going to make some headway here on the live chat because I wanted to get to the comment by Lee Smith. I see I've got 2 super chat contributions, so I will do my very best to get those to the screen. I don't know who they're from yet, but I'll get there in just a second. Lee Smith's channel. Mark, please start a petition for Ohio State. You have the platform to encourage many fans. I appreciate those people that at times point to the influence, the power, whatever you want to phrase it, in regards to what we do here. I don't necessarily know if that's my place to get people to sign petitions. There are petitions out there. So all you need to do is pick out your favorite team, your favorite player from the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. I signed one today. I saw one from Justin Fields. I signed it. I feel as though that he and others need to be heard. And I just didn't sign it because it's Justin Fields or Ohio State. I just signed it because it was the first player that I saw. Yes, we have 3 specific parents groups that I know of from Iowa, Nebraska, and Ohio State. And there might be a Penn State one that I saw as well. Parents groups that are petitioning and have written letters for Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten. So he has some pressure to deal with. When he's already made a decision, he may not want to revert that decision for the reasons because he made the decision that he made and others made because they believe it's the right decision. Plus, who wants to say they screwed up? So that's going to be a difficult one to turn over. But Lee Smith, I appreciate what you're saying there. But I have an opinion on the topic, but I don't feel so convinced that we have to play that I would be petitioning anyone for anything. The first time that I ever petitioned anyone, specifically, let's say the government for anything, it's going to have to be something that I'm fully 100% convicted on, that being the right course of action. You know, it would involve something a lot more important than college football, some type of civil liberty or freedom that we see eroding in this country, that I would be starting a petition. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line?
MSU #1 fan.
Hey, MSU #1 fan, how are you?
Pretty good.
What's going on tonight?
Nothing much. I got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
One evolves around Notre Dame and the Pac-12 and Big Ten. So, do you think that the Big Ten and Pac-12 should not be national championship hunt this year because of the cancellation, but the other conferences say, I'm playing football this year, but you ain't, so you shouldn't be in the race for the championship?
Are you talking about in the spring?
Yeah.
When the Big Ten and the Pac-12 supposedly are going to play, whether that should be considered a national championship?
Yeah.
Well, understand that it's all subjective. We're not talking about the NFL. We're talking about subjective national championships to begin with.
Yeah.
So everyone is going to make up their own mind, and I don't think that most of college football nation is going to look at a Pac-12, Big Ten, 2 conferences out of 5 playing as anything close to a legitimate national championship, especially the way the Pac-12 in particular has participated and competed on the field in the last several seasons, right, that it would be very legitimate. And Ohio State's been the only team to win a playoff game or a national championship from the Big Ten. So I don't know that anyone's going to take it too seriously.
Okay.
And I wouldn't either.
Do you think that Notre Dame should be on full probation?
For?
I mean, they're the ACC this year.
Yep.
So if they leave that conference, go back to their independent, if I'm in charge of the ACC, I'd say, no. You signed a contract 1 year. The contract expires 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
Stay in the conference until they expire, and we'll go from there. But if you leave our conference, I think they should be up on probation.
Who's going to put them on probation? Probation from a bowl game?
Yeah.
What'd they do wrong?
It's just that they never are in a conference, but they play 5 or 6 ACC teams.
Well, the ACC is allowing that.
Yes.
They've actually encouraged it. The ACC just didn't allow it. They wanted it.
Okay. That must be my confusion then.
Yeah, nobody held a gun to the ACC's head to say you need to play Notre Dame 5 and 6 games a year. and put them into your bowl contract.
Okay, my fault. So,
All right, MSU #1 fan. Anything else?
I want to answer the 2 super chats and thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Always appreciate the contribution from MSU #1 fan, who is always encouraging everyone in the live chat to what? Hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Even if you don't agree with me, if you love what we do here at the Voice of College Football, in talking up the game we love each and every day, please do so. The Georgia Bulldogs and other teams in the SEC go to practice tomorrow. Look out for our video that's being released first thing in the morning with Palmer Thomas from 247 Sports, talking Georgia football. And I need to get after it because I don't know if I can promise this, but it's going to be my aim now that all the schedules are different and torn up to look at every team in the FBS and run through their schedule and make game-by-game predictions. It's coming up. MarkRogersTV, the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. It's Nate the Great. Don't be late, a.k.a. Nate Kingston. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, Mark. As a Big Ten fan, I'm kind of sad and excited at the same time because we see, well, Big Ten's not playing, but we're going to see SEC and the ACC to play football. So I'm excited about that. But, I actually if you think it's possible, this question, but you think it's possible that Notre Dame might go to championship with Clemson, just conference championship if they do?
Do I think it's possible?
Yeah.
I think it's more probable than anybody else going to the conference championship game. I haven't pulled up Notre Dame's schedule. I posted an ACC schedule look when they announced all the teams, and I remember that I determined that Florida State's got the most difficult schedule in the ACC, and Wake Forest was second. And of course, Clemson has to play Notre Dame during the season, so I'd have to review Notre Dame's schedule. Anyway, I'm going to run through all the schedules and go team by team. But I believe that Notre Dame's the second best team in the ACC. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. As a Michigan fan, since I don't like them that much, but I'll give them credit because they're having a season, but Michigan isn't. But I'll let them pass by this for now. So is this the first time that Notre Dame has been in a 1-year conference, or I forgot if it was?
I can say this with about 99.9% certainty. Yes.
All right, making sure.
I see that you were getting on my back here, Nate, for being 1 minute late.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you can say whatever you want in the live chat as long as you're not being offensive in any way. You can say whatever you want, but I guess that's one of my drawbacks in life. I'm trying to be better when it comes to starting up the live streams on time. So please forgive me, everyone out there. It's one of my flaws.
Yeah, Mark is a good dude, and he cares about his subs, and he likes to talk about college football, which is awesome. One more thing, Mark, and I'll go, and you can get your call, or other calls. You said you sent a video out like on public, in YouTube.
Yep.
It says 2021 season is going to be good with a question mark. I haven't seen it, but what did you talk about in that video? To give me
Give me just a second because I can't think of what video that would be. Give me just a second. I'll pull it up right now. So I said something about the 2021 season. Oh, is it the one where I said, did the Big 12 save the college football season?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. But I thought it actually had a Penn State logo on it. So it's the 2021 season is going to be good. But, I mean, might not. But thanks for letting me call in, Marika. And have a good night.
Of course, Nate. We appreciate it. Thanks for the call. Have a good night.
You too.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Appreciate everybody that's on the line. 179 on the line here on a Sunday night. It's going to be my aim to deliver this each and every Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time, a call-in show. Sometimes that has to be moved, but generally I should be able to deliver on Sunday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And you know me, if you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for the notifications, and you know when we go live, because I can go live at any time. Specifically Florida State show Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and then we go live with Miami and Ohio State talk throughout the week. And this is what I love to do more than anything. It's take your calls and go live. So we try to do this several times per week. I just don't always know when that's going to be, but Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time, I am committed to. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Marcus McD, Sports 4. How are you doing?
There he is. I'm doing well. What's going on, man?
Good. I missed the first 45 minutes because I was out and about, but I'm here now, which is great. Mark, I just the reason why I'm calling is because I just want to let everybody know that there is a petition out started by Justin Fields to bring the Big Ten back this fall for football, and I was wondering if you signed that petition yet.
McD, you must have missed my comment from 5 or 10 minutes ago. Yes, I have signed the petition.
Good. I did too.
I'm not typically big into signing petitions, but I signed that one.
Yeah, I'm not big into it, but I had to sign that one. I agree. Another reason I'm calling to answer your question is the championship going to be legitimate this year. Yes, it will be, because it's the same thing, just less conferences competing for a national championship. Granted, probably the SEC is going to get at least 2 teams in. I'm thinking Clemson's going to be the other team, and whoever wins the Big 12, as long as they only have 1 loss. And it's going to be legitimate, same playoff, and they'll go ahead and compete. We'll see who is the last team standing and win the national championship.
Look at it this way, McD. Think back to 2018. Who made the college football playoff? Well, we had Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. So who was left out of the college football playoff that particular year? The Big Ten, the Pac-12 were left out, right? Okay, especially the Big Ten had a champion in Ohio State that had an argument. I'm not saying that they should have been in the playoff, but I'm saying that they had just as good an argument in my eyes as Oklahoma did to make the playoff. And the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were shut out. Well, nobody argued the legitimacy of that national championship. And if anything, those teams wanted to be in the playoff. Those conferences wanted to be in the playoff. Well, this year, if all goes well, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 will be playing a playoff. They'll play a full season, then play a playoff. And the Pac-12 and the Big 10 actually decided they don't want to play. So why wouldn't it be legitimate now?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I mean, I forgot about 2018 that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 weren't in the playoffs, but I think it's a legitimate championship. I mean, every year you talk about 2 teams getting in from the SEC. We've seen it once already in 2017.
Based on what we've seen over the last 5 to 6 years, what is and this can be argued and debated, but I think it's pretty solid. What one program in the Pac-12 and the Big Ten has been a major contender for the playoffs and a national championship?
Outside of Ohio State, I can't think of anybody.
Exactly. There you go. So it's one school. Could Penn State be that good this year? Could Oregon? We don't know. And unfortunately, we're not going to know. I would love to find out. But as it stands right now, we know one team that has a legitimate chance of winning a national championship from those two conferences.
And I'm just going to throw this out there right now. There's going to be no spring season for the Big Ten and Pac-12. I don't think there's going to be any spring season because I just don't. I feel like they're just throwing it out there for hope. And before I let you go, Mark, please let me know if there's any petitions to sign and to fire Kevin Warren or Larry Scott. I would love to sign them. So just let me know about that and just direct me there. I would love to sign those two petitions. And I'll even use fake accounts to sign those as well. Thanks for taking my call, Mark, and go Terps. We might not be playing this year, but we'll make it a bowl game in 2021.
Our man McD looking to get Kevin Warren and Larry Scott fired. Kevin Warren's only been on the job for about 9 months. So he's really been punched in the mouth with this situation, certainly. And Larry Scott hasn't made a move that anybody's agreed with or that has turned out well for years and years and years as the Pac-12 continues to decline in football. And Larry Scott needs to understand that football drives it all. And so he needs to make better decision when it comes to making money and playing football. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Bash.
Bash! What's going on, man?
Yeah, I'm currently driving. I was listening to it. I haven't really been on the comments because I've been driving a lot lately. But I've been listening while I've been on the road. So if my car's too loud or whatever, I could hang up.
You're loud and clear.
Or whatever, and give the floor up.
Good to hear from you, Bash.
Perfect.
What's going on?
So a lot on my mind for the last couple of weeks, and let me just start with pointing out the hypocrisy of Kevin Warren, just kind of hopping on that little bit of a bandwagon, endorsing the idea that his kids can go out and play college football in the SEC, and I get it wasn't all his decision, right? But who's the one who ended up bringing the vote to the presidents of these Big Ten schools? It was Kevin Warren. Like, let's be honest about this. Kevin Warren had a lot in play when it came to deciding that the Big Ten was done. But, yeah, he wants to go ahead and say that his own son can play football in Mississippi State. I just don't buy it for a second that it wasn't a little bit of a power move on Kevin Warren's side early into his tenure as the Big Ten commissioner. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think he made the right decision. So I'm on record saying that a number of times and explaining exactly top to bottom why. He's really not making himself a very popular commissioner. So maybe he's making a power play and appeasing people in high places, possibly. I think there could be a concern there. I hope not. But in terms of the masses want football. And they want the players and the coaches to be supported and heard, and he's not showing us that. So he's not becoming a very popular person, which I would hope that's not his aim, but in the process of possibly making a bad decision or at least not explaining his decision very well, he's not become very popular. So if you understand my point,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I'm like keeping an eye on with this whole Big Ten closing down Big Ten and Pac-12 is I'm still waiting on the medical information to come out that is going to be contradicting whatever the ACC and the SEC have that gives them reason to play. I mean, it just makes no sense to me how you can go ahead and cancel, and yet all these other conferences are going right now, and maybe this is happening behind closed doors because I know the Big Ten is trying to influence behind closed doors, like this actually came out, that the Big Ten is trying to influence behind closed doors the other Power 5 conferences to move in unity with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. And I'm wondering if there's any legitimacy to the claims of these guys having some medical information that says, hey, stay off the field. I'm wondering if they're going to release that to those 3 conference commissioners first and whatever board of trustees or whatever those conferences have. And then when all that news breaks, as a whole, collectively, the Power Five is going to go ahead and release some sort of medical information on the issue.
Sure. So let's understand that while all the medical information should be the same, so it's reasonable to think, okay, why do 5 conferences differ on this when there's medical information and there are medical experts? And if you're drawing from the top of the line in your conference and assuming that they're all roughly in the same league in terms of their medical expertise, and they all have the same information, then why aren't they coming to the same conclusion? Well, we've seen since day one of this COVID situation where the medical community hasn't completely agreed, because it is an extremely complex situation. So you can have 2 experts and they can disagree. I think where I really have an issue with the Big Ten is I am all for safety in general. Obviously, the student athletes need to be protected. I've outlined all the reasons why I believe that the student athletes are safer playing football than they are not playing football. And I won't go through that right now because I've gone through it about 50 times. The issue that I have is that the Big Ten keeps falling back on, we don't know about long-term effects. Well, we are sitting here, it's almost September. They are talking about going to fall camp in December and starting a football season in January. What are we going to know about long-term effects that's any different 3 months from now? Their experts are telling, at least the information that I see, that we're not going to have a real decent handle on long-term effects for like 3 to 5 years. So the Big Ten's being hypocritical, saying we're looking out for player safety by saying we're going to put off the season for 3 months when we're not going to know that much more about it long term than we do now. So if that's the reason we're not playing, that doesn't seem to make any sense.
Well, of course, that's also, I know this has been pointed out many times, but it's also a little bit of a contradiction if you talk about player safety and the fact that these players are going to have to play a couple seasons back to back like that. Even if you start in January, it's still going to be 2 seasons in the calendar year. Let's not fool ourselves on this.
Absolutely.
And also, last thing I'm going to say, can I just have one more statement real
Sure.
quick? Last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to hang up because I think I'm going in the middle of nowhere and I'm not going to have a signal. Anyway, this petition that Justin Fields is starting, I love it. But sadly, it's not going to do anything. It really just is going to have to come down to a couple of presidents, mainly at schools like Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. It's going to come down to the president. It's not up to Kevin Warren anymore. The petition's not really going to do much. You need to talk to the president of the school. That's all
I completely agree.
As far as the petition goes.
I completely agree. It's not going to do any good. I signed it just because I believe in the cause and I believe that he should be heard.
Yeah.
Not just him in particular, but the players should be heard.
I did too, and I hate to be doom and gloom like this. And I even throughout the entirety of COVID, I tried to, look in a positive direction. Like, okay, we can move forward from this. I just don't see how that's going to change Big Ten's minds like that. They got to change it. They're good to have it this fall. Anyway, I'm going to continue listening while I drive. You have a nice evening and intellectual colors to keep, making it entertaining.
Appreciate that, Bash. Drive safely.
All right, you have a good night. Bye.
All right, this is what we do here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, is take your calls as many times as we can, because this is what I love to do more than anything that you see on this channel is talk college football with you. I typically don't even get to necessarily the topic I want to get to because you guys produce the show. So whatever your questions are concerning college football, that's what we do right here. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Dave Knight. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm fine. Hey, I'm going to ask a favor from you.
Sure.
You don't need, yes, it's not for me. It's more about yourself, okay? I'd like you, if you could explain to everybody how much time you put into the effort to conduct this show and explain to them you have yet another job.
Well, I appreciate it, Dave. I know that this comes from a very a heart of gratitude for you. That I appreciate that you support as well as anyone here. There's no question about that, and have taken a liking to what we do, and certainly have taken an interest to it, and appreciate what we're attempting to do here each and every day. So I'll just briefly say that I do want to post a video at some point. I keep telling myself just to really outline and organize in a simple way ways in which people can take action to help support the channel. And I'm not just talking about monetarily. I'm talking about it in any way, shape, or form, and really because there are dozens of ways. But in terms of, I just know that I stopped counting hours. But, you know, for several months, I would kind of take some inventory at certain points throughout the week and say, okay, how long was I doing this on Sunday? Okay, 8 hours. Okay, how long was I doing this on Monday? 4 hours. And I would add it up. And by the end of the week, I was typically putting in 40 to 45 hours on this channel per week, and then at the other job about 45 hours. So actually a little bit more than that, because I was topping 100. I've tried to pull back on that just a shade, just a hair. You still with us, Dave?
Yeah, I'm listening. You're talking.
Yeah, that's all I had to say in regards to.
I don't like interrupting.
I don't think that anybody else has much interest in how much I'm working here. So I appreciate.
The only thing I would,
yes.
But the only thing I would say to you is that I like, just because we've had these different conversations, I feel very impelled to let these people know that, man, you're going gangbusters, and you deserve some credit for this.
Well, thank you. I know that the only reason I've pulled back on content is people that even really like the channel and want to take in as much as possible have complained. And when I use that word complained, I don't mean it in a negative way, but have just told me, Mark, I can't keep up with all the content, because I used to have a conversation. Let's say, for example, this used to be my approach, let's say 6 months ago. I'd have my Georgia guy on, and I would record with him, and we'd have a 30-minute conversation. And then I would divide the video into segments, you know, the quarterback talk, the recruiting talk, the head coach talk, the rivalry talk, whatever it was. And I would then release like 6 videos, because I thought I was maximizing the viewership that way. And if you only wanted to hear about the quarterback battle at Georgia, you'd only watch that video. But I was flooding my channel with too much content, and people were complaining, saying, Mark, I can't keep up with all the content. Most channels have the opposite issue, where they don't have enough content. But even now, that when I have the conversation with the Georgia guy, it goes out now as just one video. I think all you have to do is look at my video list, and you see that I'm producing a couple videos per day, plus all the live streams. And I'm sending out a good 90 or 100 videos per month.
And I do see that. And I'm going to be honest with you, I have a little concern for you, my friend.
You think I've lost it, huh? There's something not connecting upstairs.
I think that you're going to end up burning both ends of the candle, man. You're like, I love your shows, but I don't want you to ever get to a point like where you're like, man, I'm just really worn out. I mean, because you have I believe you said you have a son, a daughter, and a significant other. Man, you got to pay time for them.
Well, fortunately, right now, my significant other is long distance, so we spend concentrated periods of time together. And yes, my son and daughter are older, so they're certainly still very significant in my life, but I see them once or twice a week. So they're 23 and 21 now, so my time with them. And that's the times in which sometimes I'll move a live stream or say, hey, I was going to jump on tonight at this time, but now I'm not. Those are the type of things that come up because I want to prioritize my family, of course, first and foremost. So that's when I will cancel things or move things around. But I appreciate your concern, and we're going to do our best. And I got to say, I'm in a good state of mind right now. There have been times in the last couple of years when I was really churning it out and, I would hit a wall and think some days I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done.
Okay, Mark. Well, anyway, the only thing I would say after this, man, when you can get some rest, please. Because I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I'm saying I love these shows, and I'm sitting in my own private Idaho. And when I get to see your shows, like it's just like an uplift for me.
Well, Dave, I know that from our conversations that you're facing a number of challenges there. So whatever we can do to brighten your day and give you some engagement and some conversation, I enjoy that. I know that we provide that little bit of something for you. And so thank you so much for your contribution. And certainly your addition to the channel and you finding the channel and contributing has been a huge highlight for our 2020 here.
All right, brother. Hey, you have a great night, and I will continue to contribute.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. I'm assuming you did tonight. I just haven't I'm working my way through the live chat, so we will get that posted.
Yeah,
so
I got you. I know you are. I know you're busy. So, man, I never worry about that. So, God bless you and take care of yourself, Mark.
God bless you, David. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome.
It's our guy, David Knight. He's a Notre Dame fan. And not even mad at me that we started a Notre Dame live stream and just nobody was watching it. So after about 6 or 7, we shut it down. Would love to be able to find a Notre Dame audience out there. So I know I run into a few. Johnny Bays watches us on a regular basis and comments, and he loves Notre Dame. Brian Baird, thank you so much for your contributions throughout the last several weeks. Brian, thank you so much for joining us here. Sooners would go 10-0, then lose to the first good team they play. We've seen that a few times, haven't we? So I did mention that it's going to be my aim to go through all the schedules. Now that we've got brand new schedules, we got to run through these schedules and set them up. So for you old timers that were around years ago, you know that I used to have this whiteboard that I used a lot, the dry erase board. I used to crunch all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, we're going to put that in use. I see it over here in the corner, the dry erase board for the schedules. We'll break down the schedules, and we will predict every game in college football this year. Did I just say I was going to do that? Now I'm committed to it. We're going to do our best to get that done. All right.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to
Don't hold me to this, but I have had conversations this week with my tech guy, Mr. Marty. Not going to get his last name out there, but he's a longtime friend and colleague from the past that I rely on for my technical and operational setup. So anything good that's happened in that direction is because of him. So we're trying to figure out better cameras and equipment and processing systems to do some of the things that you see on the other channels regarding some of the glitz, some of the bells and whistles. All right. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Michael. How you doing today, sir?
Michael, big Purdue fan. I came across your, you posted something on Twitter. I think it was today or yesterday, and I made the connection. I was like, there's Michael's Twitter feed. There's that Michael. Yeah, Purdue fan. There he is.
Mm-hmm. All right. I got a quick question. I won't keep you long because I know you probably got a gazillion callers and you still haven't probably slipped since 2018. But anyway,
I was just trying to figure out, though, with everything going on, I heard something about Oklahoma had 9 positive cases of COVID-19.
Yes.
None of their players had. Okay, so is that considering maybe throwing red flags up to Bob Bowlesby?
Repeat the last portion of that.
Is that considering throwing up red flag? Is that red flag to Bob Bowlesby? Or,
Oh, sure.
Or is it still a wait and see?
Sure it is. I don't think it's a red. All depends what you consider a red flag or how you define a red flag. But a red flag meaning, okay, this is a warning sign. We need to be watching out. Absolutely. Because we now have students on campus or getting close to being on campus, and we've got 9 players that contracted it. I would love to know in all of this what these various institutions, or I should say the football programs, are doing about regimenting the schedules of the players. Because if they have those players in lockdown for 2/3 of the day, but then they're out running around going to who knows where the rest of the time, I don't know that that's going to work. And I think it's all going to cave in.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I was just trying to figure out, you keep hearing all these experts from the different universities and stuff like that. When they go to, I'm to the point like either you put up or just shut up about it. Just come out with why you have it all, and they just have like one uniform. What's the word I'm thinking of here? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it. Different, same opinion. Instead of having different, this doctor saying it's safe to play. This doctor saying, why don't they just gonna all just say come to the conclusion, and they all agree? Why do you give different opinions for? Or is it just different regions of the country?
Well, I don't buy the different regions of the country argument. So Kevin Warren in particular, the Big Ten commissioner, one of his claims was, I'm not going to speak to the other conferences. Now, out of respect, I wouldn't do that either. It's their decisions and they have their own information. So I agree with him stopping short of talking about other conferences, but he made the statement, this is a regional issue that affects different regions of the country differently. Absolutely. That's the case. All you have to do is look at a map. All you have to do is look at the stats. But we also have to consider that if you take out, Michael, the outliers, meaning on one end of the spectrum, as bad as it's been from day one in New York City, and now it is in Los Angeles, okay, they're an outlier. And then the other end of this spectrum, the outlier is the middle of Montana and Wyoming, where nobody gets it because nobody's within 500 miles of each other. Okay, the rest of the country, the hot spots have spiked all over the place in different ways. I live in a state that was a hot spot early and now is considered one of the safer places. Texas was a very safe place early and now it's a hot spot. So there's not a pattern to where these hot spots are popping up. Even when the warm weather hit, there was a theory that the warm weather is going to kill it. So you would think in the South where it's 95 degrees and there were all these studies done about how the virus doesn't last in temperatures past 95 degrees. You would think it would have been completely abolished in the South. It's been 95 degrees in places like Texas and Florida for the last 6 weeks, but that's not been the case. So the point I'm making is that I don't think the regional argument makes sense, because once those players step on a campus, once they step in that football facility, it doesn't matter if they're in Provo, Utah, or Columbus, Ohio, or Auburn, Alabama. They're in a football facility that has been sterilized, cleaned to a high standard. They're amongst people that have been tested. They're on a football field, whether inside or outside. They're in a cafeteria eating with only approved personnel that have all been tested. They're in study halls and online sessions and game rooms and meeting rooms and film rooms, all with people that have been tested and have passed the test negative. So I don't see the difference between the conferences for the football players.
Okay, my final question is, when is the world-renowned top 25 that makes sense poll? When's the first one come out?
Well, it really doesn't make sense until the distinction in mind doesn't really take hold until they actually play one game. So if you're asking if there's going to be a preseason top 25 poll. Sure, there should be. I should do that, shouldn't I? Top 25 poll preseason. But I'm not going to say that one makes sense because it's just a prognostication of sorts. But once they play a game, Michael, and that's our little inside joke. I don't know that a number of people out there that are listening right now are going to get what you're saying because they're just going to have to live through it. Where I'll tell everybody out there that every Sunday during the college football season, I release my top 25 that actually makes sense. Because what I used to do is I would look at the AP and the coaches poll every Sunday and I'd say, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That's contradictory to that. And I would tear them to shreds. So I finally decided, you know what? I need to release my top 25 every week that actually makes sense. Yes, it will be alive and well, Michael.
All right, glad to hear that. Hey, if you need some monster or some Rockstar, just let me know and I'll try to get some sent your way.
What are you looking to send me?
Monster or Rockstar energy drinks as much as you
Okay, I got you.
get sleep. All right, Mark, thanks. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate it.
I see. Okay, bye-bye.
No, we stay clean with the water. Those energy drinks, I've never even touched those things. Stay away from those things. All right. So I would hope everybody that's on the line right now is having a good time. So please like the video. Do us that favor. Start there by liking the video. And if you've got a couple minutes and you're just killing time,
The call will start.
go through my last 5 to 10 videos and just like them all. Even if you don't agree with my opinion, if you enjoy what we do here at the Voice of College Football, please like the videos. MarkRogersTV, the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
What's up, Marky? JT Sport.
JT, how are you?
Good, man.
What's going on?
Nothing, man. I don't have any. I only have like a pretty simple question for you. But before I get into it, so I want to talk about what the caller was talking about previously before the last one. I've been watching your channel since I was in 7th grade. You was at 3,000 subscribers when I first started watching you.
Okay.
Now I just graduated high school, about to start college, and now you just grown so much at the channel, man. I'm really glad to have you on YouTube because you was the first ever college football channel, first ever sports channel I ever saw, man. So I'm glad to see all the work that you put in is paying off, and you enjoy doing what you're doing, man, because you put in a lot of hours, and you won't put in a lot of hours if you didn't enjoy talking about college football.
Well, I do enjoy it. There's no question about that. Yeah, the channel has grown, and I've made this statement a few times in recent weeks that I'm not doing anything different. So the channel is growing because of people like you, JT. So I thank you and everybody else out there that has watched the videos, liked the videos. And the one thing that I'm impressed with all of you, amongst a ton of other things, is that if you know anything about YouTube analytics, it's very important how long people watch the videos. And for some strange reason, people watch my videos for a long time. So for example, if you're putting out a 20-minute video and people are watching it on average 10 minutes, that's a long time. Because there's a ton of people that just click on it for 5 seconds and realize, I don't want to watch this, and they keep going. So that drags down the length of time on average that people are watching the video. But my length of viewership for each video is extremely high, and so I've got to thank all of you out there for that. And you guys, I'm not doing anything different, so you guys are building the channel.
Yeah, man. So the only question I have is and I hope nobody made fun of me for that, but can you explain the difference to me between the different polls? Because you got your coaches poll, you got a media poll, then I already know the college football playoff poll is in the top 25. But what's the difference between the coaches poll and the media poll?
Okay. So here's the difference. So we've got a top 25 coaches poll. So I'm not going to go through all the variations of who has sponsored that and who's in charge of that. I think it's currently Amway and USA Today. So the coaches poll, as it states, is a poll that is a vote from all the various coaches in college football. So Nick Saban is officially sending a poll in every Monday, or I believe Sunday, that states what his top 25 is. Now, the only issue with that, JT, is that it's pretty well known that the actual coaches don't fill that poll out. They give it to somebody else to fill out. Later in the season, they may have certain reasons to want to vote up or down a particular team. So they may give some instructions to say, you know what, we're playing Auburn this week, move them up high, or whatever. And they give certain directions and instructions involving maybe a few agenda items that they have, but otherwise they give it to somebody else in the sports information department to fill out their poll. But I don't know what the number is, but there is a cross section of coaches. It's around 65 that are given a top 25 vote each week, and that constitutes the coaches poll. And that's been going on for, oh my goodness, I would say that this goes back to about the somewhere in the 80s or 90s, because prior to that, there was the UPI poll, the United Press International poll, and that was similar to the AP poll. So if you're familiar with the Associated Press, it's a major news agency that has produced a poll since 1936. That was the first national champion that was determined by a poll. And so for about 5 decades, you had the Associated Press poll, which are sports writers, and then you had the United Press International poll, which are just another group of sports writers. And so you had 2 polls. And that's why if you look up national champions in college football, you will see for a number of years, there might be the same national champion in 1953, 54, 55, 56. Then all of a sudden, 57, there's a split vote. That means the Associated Press voted one way, and the UPI, the United Press, voted another way. Then in 1989, the poll was expanded to 25 teams. It was 20 teams before that, but USA Today got involved, and they took over the UPI poll and expanded that to 25 teams. So the USA Today then turned it over to the coaches, and ESPN was involved at one point. And so you've got a coaches poll and you've got a writers poll that have been extremely important in the perception of teams and have been very important in determining a national champion, JT, until you know what? The college football playoff, because especially in the BCS era, the 2 competing teams for the BCS championship game were determined by the polls, but they were also determined by the computers. It was a combination of the computers and the polls. Then we got to this college football playoff committee, and now the polls are basically just for fun. They don't mean anything because the college football playoff committee steps in around week 7 of the season and then determines its top 25. And that's really the top 25 that is meaningful because it determines the 4 teams that will reach the college football playoff. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, I was just, that's it. I'm glad you was able to answer that for me because I was like, the coaches poll. So, like, do the coaches really vote in the coaches poll or do they just give it to somebody else? So you pretty much answered my question, man.
Well, it depends on the coach. I'm just giving you a broad view on that. It could depend on the coach. There could be coaches that say, yeah, I want to fill it out. I want to do that. But most of them, hand it off to somebody else and probably say, we want to be number 5. So put us at number 5 and do whatever you want with everybody else.
Yeah, I like that explanation. I appreciate you for taking my call, man. Take care.
Of course, JT. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. Chugging along with 220 on the line. Appreciate it. Miami will be LSU this year. Okay. LSU was much better the year prior than Miami was last year. So for Miami to be the LSU of this year, they have to go from their record says they were about the 60th best team in the country last year. 60th. I'm going to say they were more like 40th.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline.
LSU was about the 10th best team in the country in 2018 and then improved to a national championship and dominant team. So for Miami to pull off that ascension to do what LSU did this past year, I'm going to have to see it. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, who's on the line.
So Miami's going to beat LSU, huh?
No, we just got a comment that Miami is going to be the LSU of this year.
Oh, they're going to be the LSU. Oh, no, I'm reading the comment now.
And I was pointing out, Reasonable Gump, that LSU was coming off a season in which they won 10 games. They won a major bowl game. They finished like 8th or 9th in the country. So they were really good anyway. Miami was no good last year. So for them to pull that off, to go from a 7-loss football team to a dominant force that wins a national championship undefeated, yeah, good luck.
Well, I mean, they really only have about 2 good teams to go through in their conference.
That's true. They could be
maybe
the
they
worst.
Could get through those 2 teams. If they get to the playoffs, maybe they can have 7 positive turnovers go their way. And so there you go. That's just 4 games they got to somehow win. Well, 5, I guess, if you include if they have to play Clemson twice. I don't even know what the SEC schedule is. I just wanted to come on here, and I haven't been able to watch anything that you or pretty much anyone have put out this past week. I've been busy with my reserve commitment, but
sure.
I wanted to add, I know you've released a ton of videos, and I know you've gone over this probably multiple times, but I was hoping you might just tell me what do you think? Well, first of all, let's go with the title of your video, Legitimate Championship. Now, personally, my viewpoint on this is it's not the Big 12, the SEC, or the ACC's fault if the other conferences and those teams step out. It's not that, therefore, them claiming a national title, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that because, again, you can only play who's on their schedule. You can only play who's there. So it's not just because, if they win a national title, and just because there's no Pac-12 teams playing, that doesn't make it illegitimate, in my point of view.
So here's my point of view. Many times I ask questions and I have an ironclad answer that I'm committed to. That's not necessarily the case this time. I just thought it was a decent debate to have. I do side fairly heavily on the side that you stand on, that for a number of reasons. So let's consider that if we asked anybody that's a big college football fan that has a pretty good perspective on who's good and who's not, and said, who can legitimately win a national championship this year? And then we asked them who out of the Big 10 and the Pac-12 is relevant in the national championship race, they would name one school. So
exactly,
we're eliminating one major contender. So there's one argument. The other one being that let's just go back to 2018. In 2018, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame made the college football playoff. The Pac-12 and the Big 10 were shut out that particular year, and they actually played a full season, and they were shut out, and they were not selected. So they actually had a bigger gripe to say, we played a full season, we produced 2 champions, one of them had the same record as Oklahoma, and we were not invited. To your point, even more so this season, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 could say our champion's legitimate because you have the option to play football. You chose not to play football. We can't help that. Therefore, you forfeited the season. Unlike in 2018, when you did what you could possibly do to try to compete for a national championship, you just didn't get selected.
Right.
So I agree. I think it's a legitimate championship. Is it as legitimate? And I understand the argument. If somebody would say, I don't think it's legit because everybody needs to play, sure. I think it can be debated both ways. But we're not including all the conferences anyway. So when Notre Dame gets selected, as has happened one time, we've only had 6 playoffs, and one time we had Notre Dame in. Another time we had 2 teams from the SEC. Therefore, 2 out of 6 years, we eliminated 2 conferences anyway.
Exactly.
So that's all that's happening this year.
All right. So I don't think we're going to find any very many disagreements on that topic. I'm going to move on to another one. I'm pretty you probably addressed already, but if you wouldn't mind just doing so for me again here. What do you think about the timing and the wording of the Big Ten, and by extension the Pac-12's decision? Wednesday last week, the Big Ten puts out a schedule, and then not even a full week later, 6 days later, they're saying it is abundantly clear that we cannot play. I don't understand. Well, actually, I think I do understand, but why do you think that is just, I mean, am I alone here? Does that not sound really strange, a little shady to you? That they're not even a week later after they release a schedule, do they just turn around, stab everyone in the back, mainly their own fans and their own coaches and their own players, and say, you know what, actually, it is absolutely clear that we cannot play, even though we just put out a schedule?
Yeah, for the purposes of planning and traveling, there doesn't have to be a schedule released for a long time until the season starts. Like there was not a need to send out a schedule. I don't know if they were anticipating what their decision was going to be, but they wanted to show that they were trying, that they really gave it a shot. I don't know if that was premeditated or they simply were acting day to day, and the schedule got released, but they determined more information on the health side and made a determination a few days later that they can't play. Or it was all one grand plan. I don't know.
Yeah, it was really strange. I think it rubbed a lot of people, namely their own coaches and their own players, the wrong way.
Well, I don't,
particularly with what Scott Frost and Brian Day and Jim Harbaugh's big letter. What they're all saying. They seem to feel completely slighted by this decision.
Sure,
it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, they're also looking at their livelihoods, and they're also looking at the legitimacy and the credibility of the conference going forward, thinking, again, I'll use Ohio State for an example because they're almost in a different classification because they are the elite of the 2 conferences. Well, they're thinking about trying to compete and hang with Georgia, Clemson, Alabama for the next years, and then thinking, okay, what has this done to the image of the conference? Therefore, it rubs off on us. And how more difficult does this make our task in recruiting in a landscape in which we're losing players in this part of the country anyway? And we're trying to, we're not trying to be Illinois and just get to a bowl game every year. We're trying to compete with the very best and win national championships. And our league has put us in a bad place where if these other 3 leagues are able to go out and successfully complete a season and play for a championship, this may set us back.
Not only experience-wise, a lot of people are saying Justin Fields is just going to go straight to, the NFL. So and I'm sure there's a number of other players on Ohio State that would too. Not that Ohio State's lacking in recruits, but everyone can see Justin Fields is kind of one of those superstar kind of quarterbacks that you want to get as much use out of as you can. But stuff like that. There's do you think there's any? Oh, and there's also the financial aspect of it too. I mean, I don't think a lot of people even realize just how much all college athletics
depend on college football, the revenue that brings in for the school. I mean, you're talking about these schools plan their budgets every single year on the revenue that college football is going to bring in because it's so huge. So when you lose an entire year of that, I mean, some big schools like Ohio State and Wisconsin and Michigan, you know, they'll be okay. But some of the smaller ones, particularly ones with a group of five, you know, they're just losers everywhere as far as this is concerned. It's going to have a pretty major impact going forward. I'm not even certain that the other college sports will get to play in the Big Ten and the Pac-12 right now. You know, even if conditions start improving and we think student athletes are safe, you know, come January or February. First of all, no one's playing college football in the spring. I don't know why people keep saying that. Big Ten can't even play night games past October. What people really think they're going to go play out in February? Well, listen, I was stationed in New Jersey for 5 years. It's pretty damn cold in February, and that's not even Ohio or Michigan, or you know. So I don't know who in the right mind thinks that's going to happen. That's just one. That's actually one of the smaller reasons that won't happen. But going back to what I was saying, I'm not even sure the other college sports are going to be able to play because they generally play for a loss. Pretty much every college sport, with the exception of a couple schools and their men's basketball team, those sports are playing at a loss that gets covered by the revenue from college football. So this is just going to have an enormous impact. I don't think a lot of people are foreseeing.
And that's what astounds me about the decision that was made, because what do we all want to say as college football fans? What rules, what is the determining factor in all the decisions that we typically see? Money. We always say, oh, the almighty dollar is going to rule. Well, not in this case. The Big Ten's going to take an enormous loss, and who knows what the loss is going to be long term. And so they're even overriding the power of the almighty dollar to say we're not going to play. You know, it's one thing for the MAC to shut down because they're saving money by not playing because the testing is just too expensive, and they've lost all their Power 5 opponents that pay them, as I pointed out in the case of Kent State, that had Alabama, Penn State, and Kentucky on its schedule. They were going to gain somewhere in the neighborhood of $5.5 million for those 3 games. Well, that's out the window. Plus, they got to test all these players. So the MAC is saving money, but the Big Ten, having brought in the best revenue of any conference in the country in the most recent football season, has made a decision against the financial decision.
Yeah.
So that even underlines it even more.
It tells you, or at least it tells me, that there's some reason, something that they value a lot more than money.
It can only be 2 things.
A lot of people want to say it's the players' health, and I'm not denying that it is.
I don't think it is.
But
I think it's one of 2 things.
I don't think it is.
I think it's either political, and I'm not going to delve into this too much, but I think it's got to either be political or it's litigation, fear of litigation.
The thing of it is I would generally lean toward the first, and I'm not going to get into it either, but mainly because I think the litigation could easily be waived with you know, hiring some good lawyers to write up a good waiver that everyone has to sign.
So,
I mean,
as you may have heard me explain,
we do everything nowadays.
Yep. As you heard me explain, I'm not buying that it's safer for the student athlete to be out in the general population than it is to be a football player in the facility 90% of the time. I think that's a safer place to be. Playing football is a better place to be in this pandemic than being just out there. So I'm not buying that, number one. Number two, I'm not buying the long-term effects being the deciding factor. I would buy that if the Big Ten came out and said, we're not playing football until we know what the long-term effects are. We're not playing, and if that takes 5 years, we're not playing football. Obviously, they're not going to do that. But for them to cite the long-term impact or potential long-term impact as being one of the deciding factors, and then say they're going to put football players on the field in December to start training camp for a January season. Well, we're not going to know that much more, if anything more, about the long-term effects in 3 months.
And honestly, I mean, I could be wrong here. By the way, I'm working on my degree in nursing, so I'm learning a little about this kind of stuff. But check me if I'm wrong. Isn't December considered flu season?
Yes.
Aren't these kind of viruses worse during that time?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Just to make sure.
For anybody who lives in,
everyone except the Big Ten is on the same page here.
For anybody who lives in Big Ten country, and you mentioned Ohio and Michigan, but amplify that if you go up to Minnesota and Wisconsin. My goodness, those are the two coldest places you can be in practically in America, that there's not prairie dogs running around, you know, in Montana and Wyoming. But where there's any kind of population, it's Minnesota and Wisconsin. And so they are talking about starting a season in January. The two coldest months, believe me, I've lived most of my life in Connecticut and Ohio. The two very coldest months are January and February, by far.
By far.
You can find a 50-degree day in December and in March, but January and February are deep freeze months.
They don't believe what they're saying about playing football in the spring. They can't. There's no way.
They're appeasing people.
Yeah. Two more quick things here, Marcus. So, real quick, do you think anything of the Ryan Day in Ohio State and Scott Frost in Nebraska, like their determination to find a way to play without the Big Ten? Do you think that's going to bear fruit?
No, so they both come out, most specifically Nebraska, because they were the most adamant. Ryan Day was a little bit at least reserved, but Scott Frost was really out there pounding the pavement, and it had the support, the public support. I thought this was interesting, of the chancellor, the president, and the AD to say, yeah, we're going to go out there and play. But they must have had a, I don't want to use that term. They must have had a pretty serious meeting with the Big Ten, because then they about faced and said, our alliance is with the Big Ten. We're a committed member to the Big Ten. And so that is all, unless somebody else has new information based on what I've seen the last maybe 2 days, that's been squashed.
Well, like I said, I've been kind of not been able to look at info. The only reason I know about all this is because it's kind of impossible to miss right now. Then the last thing, I'm sure someone's asked you about this, but is it going to be funny or ironic or some other word out of the sky when Kevin Warren is in Mississippi State watching his son play?
Yes. That can't be. There is no way. And I am the first person that tries to say, okay, I don't know all the facts. I don't pretend to know all the facts. So maybe there's something going on that we're not aware of. But I just don't know how that can be explained in any possible way. You're either saying that you're making a bad decision, or you're saying that the SEC, you're basically either saying that you've made a bad decision, or the SEC has poor guidelines and health conditions in which you should be taking care of your son, who should be opting out. So there's no good way to explain it that doesn't look bad for Kevin Warren. He's either allowing his son to play in a dangerous situation, or he's made a bad decision.
Yeah, there really isn't any way to talk your way out of this situation. I mean, he's already on record for saying he feels safe with his son playing, I think I heard, heard that somewhere. Okay, yes.
The Big Ten Network host that interviewed him did a nice job, Dave Revson, of trying to pin him down on a few points, but he just would not give up the vote total among the Big Ten presidents because it was obvious that there was dissension. So he didn't want to give up that vote total.
Right.
And when it came to his son, he didn't want to address that except to say different regions of the country are being affected differently by this virus. That's a true statement, but it's an unpredictable pattern. And it's not like we're talking about that the Big Ten's isolated to one state. He's covering New Jersey to Nebraska. So he's basically, that's not a region of the country. That's half the country. So it's not a region of the country. These conferences are so large now that you can't say, oh, this is isolated to these 3 states and therefore we're responding to a good situation or a bad situation in these 3 states. No, you're not representing a region of the country.
Yeah, and you can't. I'm not sure what else he said, but I know there's other people affiliated with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 who are already writing their articles about how the SEC is willing to put their players at risk just to make a quick buck. They care more about college football than the health of their students. No, I know. If they haven't already been said, they're coming. But you can't say that but then at the same time have a position of, well, it affects different regions of the country differently. So it actually may be safer. It may be safe to play down there. It has to be one or the other. Again, I'm not accusing Kevin Warren specifically of that because I have no idea, but I'm just saying that we are going to get that picture sometime in the fall. He's down there watching his son play because he asked him. He's a father. What is he going to do? Not watch his son play football?
Maybe he'll make the statement that it wasn't safe enough for him to travel down to Mississippi to see his son play.
But I thought you actually had a great point that these are like the best, cleanest facilities, the best equipment, the best doctors and medicine, and just overall treatment money can buy. I mean, these college athletes, just particularly in the Power 5 schools, are not roughing it. All right, they are being taken care of, the likes of which most of us will never know.
Yes, basically.
And so I personally feel very, very comfortable having them on these campuses, being treated, by the best doctors elsewhere. And by the way, I'm probably a good portion of these college kids, if they were just at home, they're not even going to get a fraction of the care they would be if they were at school. They probably can't even afford that kind of care. Not saying anything against them. I'm saying that kind of care is expensive. Everyone knows how expensive health insurance is right now.
Why can't the conferences, therefore the teams in the conferences, tell their football players, we don't like to do this, but this is a dire situation, and if you really want to compete and play football, this is what we need you to do, and we will make it even better for you if that's possible, based on what you just said. You're going to be on the practice field, inside and outside. You're going to be in a cafeteria. You're going to be in a game room where we're going to supply ping pong and every video game imaginable to man, and bowling and whatever you want to do. We've got study halls. We've got tutors. We've got online classes. You're going to be in your living quarters. You're basically going to be living in this bubble, and we need to take it to the nth degree for 4 months so we can get through a football season.
Exactly. I was watching Najee Harris. They were kind of interviewing him on Zoom, and first of all, it's such a nice and well-spoken person. But they asked him if he ever considered opting out of the season. He's like, no, never even crossed my mind. But he was talking about how they were trying to be leaders for the younger guys and kind of keep them from going to parties and stuff, because that's what is it? Whatever the word is, anti-productive or counterproductive to what they're trying to do here. Because you're right, it's sucks, but you just got to put up with it for 4 months, try to live in a bubble, and, you know, to get the season going, and to, on a larger scale, to flatten the curve of this virus. But anyway, man, I know you got some other people who probably want to talk, so I appreciate you talking to me tonight, and I'll talk to you later, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for the call, man. So Dan brings up a good point right here, and this was addressed on our Ohio State live stream. Okay. So yes, if the Big Ten plays a January, February, March schedule, or February, March, April schedule, because it's going to take about 3 months to play a college football season with byes, they would play in domes. They would find Indianapolis and St. Louis. Where can they play domes? Ford Field, is that a dome or is that open? That's a dome in Detroit. There's not a whole lot of them. Chicago's outside, Minnesota's outside, Wisconsin's outside, Lambeau Field's outside, Indianapolis, St. Louis. Anyway, Dan, it's a good point that they would play in domes, but why don't they just create bubble situations on campus right now? If they're going to go play in domes, they're basically taking these kids off of campus anyway and going to these facilities, and you want to be there at least a day early. So they're still traveling. Okay. But you do make a good point, and I had not taken that into account since last Friday when we did our Ohio State live stream, and we addressed exactly that, playing in domes during the winter in the Big Ten. This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We appreciate you jumping on the line and keeping those phone lines burning up at 860-325-3687. I'll get the number to the screen in just a second. 860-325-3687 with 241 on the line. We appreciate you joining us for the last 2 hours. Our call-in show we are committed to presenting hopefully each and every Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Keep in mind, college football fans, that even though we have specific team live streams, that you're invited to take part in those as well. Florida State, for example, our Seminoles live show is Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and we've got all sorts of college football fans that take part in that. We do Miami, we do Ohio State. There is nothing special about Ohio State, Miami, or Florida State. They just turn out to be the subject matters and the teams right now that, based on the quality guests that I'm able to bring in and the following and fan base and popularity on my channel for those three schools, I would love to do a Clemson dedicated live stream, Notre Dame, Alabama, Auburn, go on down the line, all these teams you see behind me, Georgia, whomever. Love to do them all.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is the End Zone. I just got a quick question because a lot of people are talking about Florida teams. Could you rank the Florida teams, including Central Florida? Just a power ranking.
Okay, from top to bottom, I would say, got to do a little research on UCF this season, but I'll go Florida 1, Miami 2, UCF 3, FSU 4. And it's close between the final three.
Yeah, I just wanted to see your opinions about yeah.
What's your ranking?
Have a good night. My ranking, basically the same, except I put South Florida at the bottom.
Oh, okay. So we threw South Florida. Sorry, I missed out on the Bulls there. Yeah, I would put them at number 5.
And Florida Atlantic has been all right in the past couple of years too.
Yeah, under Lane Kiffin, we'll see what kind of turn they take this year.
Yeah, but definitely Florida 1. Hurricanes probably close by. Also showed So I'm going to go ahead and get off, but thanks for doing that quick ranking.
Appreciate the call, man. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Yeah, it's a pretty close call, actually, except Florida would be the best, and I don't think it's a substantial lead in terms of talent. There's a difference, though, between talent and then developing the talent, coaching the talent, and preparing the talent, as Dan Mullen has been able to do far better than Manny Diaz this past year. But if you just look at the recruited talent on the two rosters of Florida and Miami, and when you saw them on the field in week one, even with Miami putting out there a freshman, first-time starting quarterback who at times took some sacks that he didn't need to take, it was still an extremely tight game at a neutral site. So the talent difference between those five schools or the four schools is not great at all. And again, even with Florida being the clear-cut number one as one of the 10 or 12 best teams in the nation, any one of those teams could beat any one of those teams. Mike Norvell, I'm going to give him a bit of a pass this year, considering a very difficult ACC, and I underline ACC schedule. Difficult for an ACC schedule, but also I think this is a lot to ask of any first-year head coach without having the opportunity to get his team together for spring practice, evaluate his team, put in the terminology for a new offense and a new defense, acclimate the student athletes to the coaching staffs, just from a relationship standpoint, but also from a schematic standpoint, and instituting all the things, the process, the culture, the organization, the structure, and again, that rapport, that communication that's so vital in building a quality football team. It's a tough go and a tough thing to ask for any first-year head coach in college football, but in this offseason, very tough. All right, everyone. I know that I had 3 super chats that I wanted to acknowledge, and they have somehow left me here. So what happens here is that I use a platform called StreamYard that allows me to take your comments to the screen, and that's one of the big buy-ins that I have in using this StreamYard. Is once I found that I was able to do that, I was hooked. I said, man, this would be great if I can take the live chat comments and post those to the screen. That would be great. The unfortunate thing is that if I don't get to all these comments, it advances in the list and then it passes up, and I can't go back and grab those previous comments. So that's unfortunate, but I will try to find, if I can. No, I think I've missed out on all those super chat contributions. So I do have a record of those, and so what I need to do is certainly acknowledge those. So I have record of those. Those are saved by YouTube. I'll be able to go back and look those up and see. And obviously, once this video posts, go back and see who contributed to the super chat. So thank you so much. You know who you are. It is always greatly appreciated. And for those of you who have just jumped on at some point during the last 2 hours and 8 minutes, if you've missed anything, certainly wait for the video to process and post, and you can go back and check it out. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time, we've got our Florida State show. And I am positive that we will be back before that on here at some point. And very quickly, let me run down and let you know what is coming your way. First thing in the morning, our conversation with Palmer Toms from 247 Sports, previewing Georgia football with the Dogs hitting the practice field for the first time in the morning. We have a video to be released in the next couple of days with Daniel House. Does a great job covering Minnesota football, is a knowledge base of Minnesota Golden Gophers football. Missed opportunity for Penn State, possibly. We address that with Tim Aiden of Black Shoe Diaries. And we've just recently released a Big 12 conversation, Oregon, USC, and LSU recruiting, and so many others. And you've got about 10 videos of me ranting about my thoughts on the hypocrisy of the decisions made by the Big Ten in particular, and the decision by the Pac-12 right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. You see on the screen there that when you do your shopping, and typically do that online, and of course Amazon is a monster. I heard a statistic recently that Amazon, oh, it was mind-boggling how much business they do. I don't remember the number, but it was incredible. It was like 60% of the country uses Amazon, something like that. So please consider shopping Amazon and using the link in the description section of any of the videos. So if you go to the video, right below it is the description section. There's a link there. And so your Amazon shopping experience is exactly the same. Doesn't change anything, doesn't add to the cost, nothing. All you do is use that link. It sends a few pennies our way, and those don't come out of your pocket. You've got the same shopping experience. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it helps us build the channel. There are so many ways in which we can build the channel here, but that is one right there. If I could get all of you hooked on using the Amazon link, that would be it. So when you click on that link, you're going to see a product. Don't worry about that, just shop. I had to choose a product to promote. I chose like a football helmet that elevates or something. I don't remember what it was. I had to choose something. So I thought it should be college football related, but just ignore the product unless you really like it. And shop Amazon. Again, just use the link in the description section of any of the videos. You can contribute to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, of course, using the Super Chat. Also, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just search Mark Rogers TV, which shouldn't be difficult to find. I don't think there are any other Mark Rogers TVs out there. So just search Mark Rogers TV at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. We appreciate that. Of course, like the video. Like the video. You're all on Facebook, I'm sure, and Twitter, and who knows what else, Instagram. Let people know that we're here as well. And let me see if there's anything. I don't want to miss any good comments in the live chat. Got the Matrix. Who in the hell do I cheer for this year now that the Big Ten kicked us fans in the nuts? I love this very unusual back and forth that we have between Miami fans and Georgia fans. So the Georgia fans basically say, shut up, Miami fans. We're 50 times better than you. Just look at the record over the last several seasons. But Miami fans come back and say, 1980. So I've gotten in the middle of it previously and let people know where I stand on that argument. I won't do that right now. Panama Jack Mark. Florida State still should win 8 games based on skilled players and better coaching. So Florida State has a 10-game conference season, so that means they're going to have to win 7 of those games because they're playing Samford in the non-conference. 7 of those games against. So consider you've got Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame, North Carolina. So Louisville. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be predicting Florida State to win 8 games out of 11. Mark Thibodeau, our guy, can't stand the Buckeyes, but they have the absolute best talented team in the nation. If they play this year, they will win the national championship. I do believe that Ohio State probably is the best team in the country, but we'll never know now. So missed opportunity for the Big Ten and the Buckeyes. Don't know what I was telling them at the time, but Florida boy, I appreciate it. Otis Wilson. I haven't done one of these in a while. So some of you will recall when I used to enjoy welcoming people to the channel for the first time. If I would see somebody's handle that I've never seen before, I would give them one of these. Otis Wilson. Otis Wilson, of course, was a great linebacker for the Chicago Bears, number 55 on their Super Bowl championship team. That was Otis Wilson. Yeah. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Otis, we would love to know how long you've been watching and who you root for. Doc Auburn, that's quite all right. No issues. Not you, Stexer. I don't know if I pronounce that right. Every time I kind of hesitate, but we appreciate you encouraging everyone to like the video. What is a huge factor in YouTube success is to get yourself in the suggested videos column. So you guys know from watching YouTube, there's the scroll of the videos that YouTube is suggesting. And I've watched so many videos to determine how do you get in the suggested videos. And nobody really knows how to do it. They basically, you watch a 10-minute video and basically the guy just tells you, be popular enough to get in. He doesn't tell you how to do it. But one key is to get the likes through the roof. So if you've got a video with 10,000 views and only 10 likes, well, you almost rather have 8,000 views and 2,000 likes. So please like the videos and comment. Thank you. I needed, I was wrestling with that one, Michael, because of course you had the Notre Dome and then they built a replacement, and then I knew that obviously the University of Minnesota built an outdoor stadium, which is, what's the name of that? That's after a bank, isn't it? As well? I'm not going to look it up and waste everybody's time. Okay, thank you. Minnesota is the U.S. Bank Stadium, which is a dome. Okay. Yeah, I should have known the Vikings. They're not playing outside, even though they did when I was a kid, and that was a lot of fun watching the Vikings out there. Yeah, so we've got Minneapolis, we've got St. Louis, and Indianapolis. I guess that's enough to take 7 conference games every year. Rutgers is going to have to fly all the way from Rutgers all the way west to play in one of those locations because we've got no other options. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati are outside. Philadelphia's outside. The New York teams are outside. Thank you. Yes, Minnesota inside. Triple headers. What would improve this call-in show immensely would be, of course, getting the call-in show part of this right, but also if I got some kind of an assistant, because they would keep up with the comments while I'm talking to all of you, because typically I can't get the comments to the screen in real time. So obviously you guys are, when I was going through the dome allocation in the Big Ten, you guys were letting me have it here with me missing Minneapolis. Since 2010, Gators put and got the most drafted players in the NFL in the state of Florida. Don't believe me? Google it. That's not hard to fathom. Good stuff. Well, we appreciate it each and every time. A Matrix survivor looking to be hired. Okay. got to pay myself significant money first, Matrix, but we're on our way. We are on our way. So again, we appreciate it for all of you. Thank you so much. We've got Doc Auburn. We appreciate your comment concerning the channel, the value of the channel, and possibly dethroning the giant there on the media side. Had a great showing tonight. Again, I am going to do my best to commit to this time, 10 o'clock Eastern time every Sunday night. We will see you soon, hopefully sometime tomorrow. Of course, we're going to have content released starting with our Georgia look tomorrow morning. See you soon. Thanks, everyone. College football, Jared, thank you so much. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you.